People have been waiting to see if that league's stable, and I'm encouraged that someone's going to look at it and take it on.
What do you think about the women's soccer league right now? It's only had 1 year. Where do you think it stands?
Look, I think it's been improvements. You can definitely see in the style of play and in the way that there's been some coaching changes, and I think there's better players in the league now, and I just think the first year was a bit of a shake-up. I mean, it was a new year, it was an inauguration of a new league, and a lot of time and energy went into setting up the league. I think this year you've started to see the fruits of, players actually playing certain styles of play, and I've been impressed with what I've seen this year.
Sorry for my ignorance on this, John, but who owns these teams, and what kind of ownership do they have? Do they have the kind of ownership that will throw $1 million at it and say, I don't care if I make any money, which is what soccer needs?
Some of the teams are run by MLS ownerships, and others by, you'd have to say, philanthropists. People who genuinely want to see the women's game thrive. I mean, I don't think there's a massive amount of money to be made in the women's game at this stage, but I still think it's got the potential to capture a market of women, young girls on a weekend, no different to what an NFL game would.
Right.
I mean, that's the vision I think everyone's aspiring to, that at some point, this catches fire, and why shouldn't it?
Has any of the MLS teams expressed any specific interest in that to you?
Look, I think there's when the NWSL was first mooted, I think some of the MLS ownerships were approached by USSF, and I think people are interested. Without mentioning names, there's definitely interest there. It's just timing. I think that's the most important thing. Fingers crossed.
Just a quick one for you. I saw that part of the program was the Four Corners approach, which is something that you have been speaking about with the senior national team for a long time now. Could you just talk a little bit about what that will mean in terms of implementing that at the youth level specifically?
So in the women's program, we've looked to implement regional Excel centres. So with the men's program, they have MLS clubs that can take over the best with best concept. We have gone down a line of creating a license criteria. And when you talk about four corners, none of those corners can be out of kilter if you want best performance from players and best development for them. So as part of our criteria to move into the regions, the reality is that regions have to respect those four corners if they're going to implement a fully fledged regional Excel centre. And that regional approach means they have to look at how do we bring mental training in, how do we ensure that the balance of the player throughout the week, they're not getting overtrained, and even just some basics of having the same sports science system and methodology for measuring and monitoring players and tracking them across all of our centres. So that's where the alignment comes in across four corners, and I think through our licence system we get a very clear picture for each province to say this is what players need if they want to get to here, and that's the design rather than chance.
What kind of feedback have you personally gotten from provinces, from community clubs, when it's come to speaking about some of these issues, LTPD and now the new soccer pathway?
Well, we haven't engaged in too many discussions around the soccer pathway and LTPD. Our whole concept has been on implementing the Excel structure, and the Excel is for that group of players that are going to commit the thousands of hours, best with best, in an environment where they're very clear where they're going and where they want to go. So we haven't engaged on community, recreation levels. We've stayed with that elite talent pathway. But the response from the provinces, they can see the reality. They can see that to align to a clear vision is only going to help them. We've consulted through the implementation of a regional Excel talent manager. So we've had someone now on the ground that's tasked to deliver the licenses, as well as to support regions, provinces, in establishing the licenses. So the feedback's been positive because we actually have resource now that's guiding player development rather than the vacuum that's potentially existed in the past.
It's interesting that you said a few times doing things now by design rather than by chance. I mean, it seemed that Canada did benefit. The women's program specifically has benefited, I think, from being one of the not early adopters, but one of the first countries to significantly invest in their women's program. And I think now we're seeing more and more countries that are investing heavily. So is this a bit of a retaliatory, as in the CSA realizing, okay, if we want to maintain this level, we can't just stand pat. We need to step it up.
You're spot on because the investment's gone into the senior women's team, and that's been the big challenge. So all the dollars have gone into the 21 players that go to a World Cup, and there's been a disproportionate investment in the structure. So what you're finding now, we've got a group of players coming to the end of a cycle. So when is the next player coming? And have we, got a system in place that clearly develops that type of player, that we know, all the data we have on Sinclair, we know the standards that that player achieves in her position. That now gets filtered into the provincial system, our rec system, where we can actually start developing that player by design, and that's what's been missing. There's been a clear picture. We want to win the World Cup, so we'll put as much investment in we can there, and we hope this thing happens because we've got a big talent pool. And the problem is, teams like Japan have invested there to get the rewards, and they're producing better standards of players more consistently than Canada are.
So the rumor I heard that some of this money is going towards technology to actually clone Christine. Is that can you confirm or deny any of those rumors?
I can't confirm or deny, but if we can find it, we'll do it.